Open letter about democracy. Here's the thing. Do you look after your apartment better that you rent, or do you look after the home apartment you own? People that I know of, that I've ever come across, even the saintliest people, don't look after their apartment as good as they would if they owned it. That's common sense. It's sort of like, yeah, I don't really have to worry about its plumbing because the guy who owns it has to worry about its plumbing. If something happens to his building. So I don't worry about that. So whether it's not taken care of or not informing soon enough, things can go wrong with the property that, would not have gone wrong with the property, either caught sooner, worried about what is wrong and caught sooner. Any problems that starts in very small, if it's caught by the owner, they would take care of it because they like to, protect their investment. So what happens is that when the owner, when the owner has it, who knows, might be with it for a lifetime, really tries, if living in that apartment, tries to do its best to, for the upkeep. You own it, so I have to be very careful with this upkeep because I don't want to own shit. But where you're a renter, it's like, no, you can't go to shit. I just pick up and leave. Here's the problem with democracy. I love democracy, but this is fuck. The problem is that if there is no owner there, if the terms are 4, 6, 12, whatever, it's sort of like 4, 6, 4, 8, and you're done. 4 or you're done. It's sort of like becomes sort of like the owner, let's say, the chief executive of the executive branch would be considered as the king for the day. He has the, literal key to ending the world always with him. So I would say he has, whoever has the nuclear code at his disposal is the owner of the day, whoever has it for one day. So what happens is this owner of the day, king of the land, has this job for only 4 years or maybe 8 years if he's very appreciated. That's like a renter knowing already he's going to be only in possession of that property for 4 years. I don't think, and by the time, it starts smoking, he's long gone. And they say that the ship of state it turns like a tanker. They say the ship of state turns like a tanker. And they're right, it's sort of like it takes forever for a big tanker to turn around 180 degrees. So, and that's the thing. So one comes in and everything becomes sort of, if you're a renter, but for some reason your landlord has forced you to, you're also responsible for fixing the plumbing and fixing this and fixing that and fixing the other. What happens is that somehow your landlord left you responsible to fix the stuff while you're still in there, paying rent. So you would say, so fuck that, I'm paying rent. Why would I want to pay top money to fix this? Plumbing or this or this, that, because I'm fixing somebody else's property. So I'm not going to, do a good job. I'm not going to buy best material for it. Because it's a contractor's job. Shitty material will do too. So I'm going to do a really fast, cheap job on the property because it's not my property. Just to fix it for the day. And that becomes the problem with democracy. That if you really have somebody who owns the thing for a limited period of time, for example, Sarkozy, who gave the go-ahead to the NATO eventually because apparently, Libya being an ex-colony, if the French say it's okay, we can go bang the shit out of the motherfucker. But when you bang the shit out of the motherfucker, it's sort of like the previous renter who owned this establishment is like torched the other shopkeeper's shop. You can consider all the countries as shopkeepers. Having a shop and having something to buy and something to sell. All countries are like shops. They're all like shopkeepers. Imagine shopkeepers in a row. They each have something to buy and sell. All the countries of the world. So what happens is that one big shopkeeper, Uncle Sam's, is like bangs, just torched, let's say, Iraqi's shop for a long time, told nobody should buy from the Iraqi in the bazaar. Sort of like we are Uncle Sam and we say nobody should deal with those motherfuckers. Okay. The motherfuckers next door, Saudi Arabia, is good, although they're more or less the same shit. But this one is bad, so it's being shit was not the problem, because if shit was, off limits for Uncle Sam would not be friends with Saudi Arabia. But since shit is not off the menu, I don't believe Saddam, shit like Saddam, was any worse than shit like Saudi Arabia. But the point is this. But the problem is that they couldn't agree on numbers. But becomes the problem. I mean, they couldn't agree on numbers because whether it was Republican president or Democratic president, the prices was high. Price of, the price of saying that maybe stop this business of, torching other shops in the bazaar just because those shops are not paying their fair share, not allowing us to take a cut. Why? And that's another the problem with democracy is that every shopkeeper comes in, let's say the chief executive of the system, that for 4 years becomes a manager of the shopkeeper, sitting in his shop, but he knows he's only going to be there for 4 years. So there is no question that this, there's not going to be much money spent upkeeping the shop even, or trying to, give out good products, because, things have got very sloppy. And Boeing starts, cutting cost. For some reason, everybody has to cut cost. So they even give shitty planes to the third world shitholes that, some of them fall down. And once enough of them fall down, somebody sounds the alarm. And like, are you serious? This is the shopkeeper is only there for 4 years, for 8 years, and the shop becomes, the this shop is less luxurious. There are a lot of people, making deals in the back of the shops with the customers without the shopkeeper knowing about. So there are little deals here and little deals there being done behind the shopkeeper's back by the, attendees. So they're making side money and they're making side money, and this guy is the owner of the shop for 4 years. Are you fucking kidding me? So, and there is a way of, there is a way of establishing that, hey, at least let's put some people with some integrity in these shops. The people who I have come to understand that integrity comes with education. The more education you have, the more person of integrity you become. It just happens. It happens over time. It happens because, unless you really like information, you're not going to, read a book instead of, have a party with the girl next door. You see what I'm saying? Then more and more it becomes the habit of, okay, information is better than this, information is better than that information. So after a while, the guy with the information is the guy you want for the top job. That's what I'm saying, that we have established a way of predicting, you can say, who is the most intelligent people. Those are the people, teaching in universities, having PhDs, professors of universities. These guys are the guys who it's clear that they have always left the party to read the book. So now that is the question of making decisions that make sense. If we have to go this route of democracy, and there are these shopkeepers that come and go, at least let's make these shopkeepers with some information, some kind of intelligence that has been measured by universities, that okay, this guy has this specialty, has a lot of information about this specific subject. You know what's good about a professor having a lot of information about one subject? You see, beside the fact I may never know this motherfucker subject and never understand his specific subject, right? This PhD in this, and who has done a lot of research. PhD with 25 years of work in that field after getting the PhD. So that person becomes, very, very, very well read in that specific subject of his. But I may never know, or never need his skills as about his subject. But the thing about having a lot of information about one matter, the thing about that is that it makes you very humble once you figure out there is probably just as much information about this field and just as much information about that field and just as much information about that field of knowledge. So he feels very, PhD people are very humble people, because just they have figured it out that if I know so much about this, there are probably a lot of other people who know so much from so many other fields that I can vision how deep those fields could be, because my field has been so deep. So the result is that if this guy is put in charge, he's not the guy who runs his mouth before opening his ears. You see, you want an intelligent person who understands that there is so much information out there that no decision can be made hastily, and you certainly cannot leave this kind of decision making to frat boys. Frat boys. This kind of decision making that is so, so affects so many lives. Just so many lives. If you make decisions that are based on so many lives are based on these decisions, dude, you gotta put very intelligent people in charge. We're talking about, a guy, who knows a lot about one specific subject, and 25 years of teaching experience makes him understand management as well as, knowing how deep other stuff are and how his effect as an executive, how many lives will be affected as the executive, the chief executive. Are you fucking kidding me? And it has come to C students and D students and maybe, students who weren't paying attention maybe to information, which is the most important aspect of an executive position, is that you know the value of information. You know the value of information. And, and people who achieve academic heights are the ones who actually are the ones who value information. So here is the thing: you're changing the manager of the shop every 4 years. It's mandatory. The manager has to change. Okay, so this shop doesn't have an owner. Owners are people. Well, owners are people, but if the media, which is the people's eyes and ears, is closed shut, because certain people have certain preferences, so certain truth are turned into a lie and certain lies are turned into a truth because everybody keeps repeating the fucking thing. So the media becomes, Trump was probably right that yes, the media is the enemy, but not in a way that he meant that anybody who's against me is the enemy. No, that's another problem. The media, not enemy, but the media could actually do their job, but they're too afraid. They're getting paid well to do very little. The stories are written and handed to them. They don't have to do anything to get to the truth. If they do, they're punished. The media have are on a long financial leash and on a short informative leash. This is the media. Are you fucking? Here's the thing: if you say, okay, the chief executive is not the owner of the property, well, he's the manager of the property. The chief executive is the manager of the property for 4 years. And if the people really don't understand the consequences of certain decisions in the long run, long after this motherfucker leaves the establishment and is no longer manager, effects of these will be really bad real down the road. This guy is manager for 4 years or 8 years. But then down the road, his decision affects 36 generations later. So this is a very delicate person needs to be put in charge of the chief executive of a country. Here's the thing. I think, maybe having 5 presidents, it's a good idea. Hey, have more than one president at a time. Have 5 presidents. They all, sit around the table. You know, you have a pink skin, you have a brown skin, you have a black skin, you have a yellow skin, you have a red skin, you have a, you have a select group, 5, let's say 7 presidents. Each one of these have and these are not, these are all have to be professors who understand give and take, who understand the value of information. Let's be frank, let's imagine together that you have a group of 7 professors of their own field. Who cares what field it is? It could be a field of being a blacksmith, professor in blacksmiths. 5 years of training and 25 years of educating others about blacksmith. That's fine with me. Somebody who is respected in their field as being at the top of their field. Folks, I mean, Mr. Bush Jr. was literally, it was junior. It was like half-ass baseball team and the oil company that went bankrupt in Texas. I'm not sure how, and apparently everybody and their cousin has an oil company in Texas. They keep going bankrupt and coming back and going. But the point is this: it's sort of like then the chief executive for 8 years, almost a decade. So you have all these intelligence systems. You have the NSA. You have our brothers at the FBI. You have all these guys. You have all these guys, and you see that why you have these guys who are professors. There are great minds put to great work, created great things, and these things that are created, these awesome weapons on all sides, are created by these brilliant people who would never consider using it, never consider, the people who actually created are probably some of the most intelligent, creative people you meet. And these guys are producing these, and this is given to the class clown? Or the actor? Or the showman? Are you fucking kidding me? This great power of NSA and FBI and the CIA, all this information, all these up to date, up to time gear and information, swimming in information about people we have. We have so much information about people you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I would believe. But then who makes decisions with all this information? The guy who understands the value of all this information? Nope. The clown, the showman, the actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I understand he's a little more intelligent than he looks, but I don't think he's a professor material. Do you? It's sort of like, folks, all these weapons, all these ammunition, all this information power, all this information is like building a great system, but leaving the decision making to the cook. or cooks who are all not so well, not so good, because none of them are very well educated in anything. I'm sorry, I mean, forgive me, Uncle Sam, I love you, man. I'm sorry, I was just seeing, I love Uncle Sam because I just saw a meme of, it was George Washington. It was a meme of George Washington in which it showed his bed that unfolded from a footlocker kind of contraption that is basically, he would carry around, somebody, probably not himself, but somebody would carry this thing around, that was his field bed that would be carried around like a luggage, but then when put on the ground and open, it would unfold as a bed, a single bed. So this was his idea of, yeah, this would be my bed. I would think that would be a bed of somebody like Che Guevara as well. Equivalent to that bed is what somebody like Che Guevara had, traveling from, Cuba, then to Central America, trying to, free these countries, bring them to their senses. And then, who got rid of him? I mean, he was the George Washington of South America. He would have been the George Washington of South America if left alone. Because he was an educated person. He was a medical doctor. He was a trained medical doctor, Mr. Che Guevara, and Ernesto Che Guevara. And as was George Washington was a, very intelligent, well-read man. I would say a PhD in something or other. Equivalent to today's PhD, I'm not sure. But the point is this: well-read, thinking men are put in charge of executive positions. People who understand the value of information. Are you fucking kidding me? So, of course, I would start, doubting and says, okay, this a system that allows that people who are not very well read, well educated, to take control of the helm of the ship of state, and then you say, oh shit. They were worried. It's not me. They were worried in the house. They were worried that okay, he shouldn't be able to use the key to start a nuclear war, for example. They were worried. The House of Representatives of the United States was worried that Trump has the key to nuclear weapons and he is unpredictable. We are worried. Mr. Chief of Staff or whatever, are we okay? Please tell us before this. We're not going to have a nuclear war just because he woke up from the wrong side of the bed. So this is what I'm saying. So, folks, presidents have to have PhDs in some field. Right now, Mr. Biden, I think he has a PhD in, politics. He's been in charge of policy. After so many years of being in charge of policies, I believe he's a PhD in policy and effects of policy. He has understood, yes, this is good. This is good because, somebody with, and his wife is basically, good in terms of she's actually has, well read. So, yeah. Well read. I mean, come on, folks. This is just you gotta raise the bar in terms of setting the lower bar, setting the bar at PhD or above. You have two PhDs, great, but PhD and above can be senators. Presidents have to be PhD with 25 years of teaching experience, which I think, the work that Mr. Biden has done in the Senate would be considered as teaching experience. Telling about the poor to the rich, but failing at it. But still, the poor have to have a speaker. It's just that the recent speakers of the poor have gone for, they were renters. They have gone for the short fix, and the short fix have led to some financial abnormalities because of short thinking. But here's the thing, I mean, folks, you gotta pick intelligent leaders. You gotta raise the bar. Okay, if people are the true leaders of the land, okay, fine. But people don't understand the value of information, or else they wouldn't be people. They will all be professors. If people are really cared about information, then everybody would be very well educated. If people care, if the nature of man was to get as much information as possible, then everybody would be, very at the top of their field. Not everybody is, and the information has lost its value in many societies that have gone super capitalist. The societies have gone super capitalist, which are the societies that basically say we don't want to spend money on education. We don't mind spending money on war, but we mind spending on money on education. When you don't spend money on education, and what I mean is, education budget of Uncle Sam is right now. Defense budget is 7 times the education budget. There is no easy way to say this. When your defense, imagine that you have a house in which you're spending equivalent to an education in the house would be, it's paint and it's drywall, and it's maybe the floor, maybe the duct system. They all need upkeep. You change the AC, you change the floor, you change the carpet. You have to do something for the upkeep. This would be equivalent to educating the public. But then you also have to defend it. So imagine your defense around the house as a defensive measure, defense of the house, the defense budget. So what happens is, if you have a little beat down, it's like having a little beat down house, no paint, no drywall, roof is leaking, the carpet, no, forget about the carpet, that we are down to dirt. But we have walls on top of the walls, we have planes on top of the planes, we have satellites. We're gonna rip anybody apart if you look at us the wrong way. But what is it that all these, Space Force, what is this Space Force is protecting? Is protect. You see what I'm saying? It's sort of like, I'm talking about Uganda at this point. At this point, I'm not talking about, Uncle Sam. At this point, I'm talking about Uganda. It's like at this point, you have a Uganda. You have a shithole which needs a lot of upkeep. You have not spent a lot of money on upkeep because, they country of Uganda, I mean, at this point, they don't have insane asylums because there's no money for it. There's money for everything else. We got, laser weapons. We're gonna burn a new asshole for you, but some of our kids, when they graduate high school, they can't read. So we have, large classes, very you know, not very good teachers because the pay is low. People with more intelligence just move on to a better paying job. They don't stay teachers. They have to really love the job to stay because the pay is shit. So what happens to a society when the teachers are not the very well informed ones? When teachers are not the very well top of the game of information. And if the pay was better, I'm sure a lot more people with information, the kind of teachers you want, would show up. I'm sure if the pay was better, a lot more intelligent people would show up. But it's just money is not there. Yeah, money in the capitalist system that you have created, money shows success, and people, if even if living like shit, if they can pretend success, that's what they will do. Even if there is no money in the account, they still live to the top of their game. Buy the car that you can, the biggest car you can, as long as you can afford just the payment. It's payment just right. You have enough for the payment exactly, and no savings. And you're like, oh, okay, so what happens? Folks, people are people. It is what it is. So if you allow the choice of picking the leader, if you allow the choice of the picking of the leader for manager of the shop for the next 4 years, if you give that job to the people, these people need to be very well educated. These people need to be very well educated. On the other hand, the only people who will put money in education, the only leaders, the only shopkeepers who will put money in education are the intelligent ones, are the professors, because they know the value of information. So they will put more money in information. It's, again, we're back to if the people, some of the people graduate without having a full, knowledge of reading. They don't have, forget about reading. You got education has to be so good that produces critical thinkers. Without being a critical thinker, you don't have an educational system. I'm talking at this point Uganda, Iran, shit, and yeah, Uncle Sam. Sometimes I've seen, if graduating out of high school they are not capable of reading, then there is. But we do have a Javelin missile at $150,000 a piece. It will blow that fucking rock to Mars. Okay? It's... Folks, if the true owners of this shop, back to the countries being shops in a bazaar, if the managers of these shops have to not be permanent, if there is not a king, like the British, if the manager of this shop comes and goes, has a term limit, and you say the true owners of this shop have to be people, are the people, okay, please the true owners have to understand the value of what they have. And to understand the value of what they have to have a lot of information. A lot of information. And you cannot hold back on information, folks. The folks on media, you think you're doing something good by holding back on certain information. But at the end of the day, if the owners of this shop don't know what shit is happening, know very well what is happening due to investigative journalism without worrying about losing a paycheck, which means capitalism has held the journalists by their nuts. So the media being the eyes and the ears of democracy, because to let the owners, who are the people, know what's going on in the land. If the media are the eyes and ears, it seems capitalism is like the hands that are covering the eyes and the ears. So the mouth can't talk. Imagine the three monkeys. If the guy with the eyes closed and the ears closed, the guy with the mouth, might as well be closed. Can't say anything. I mean, it's all over. So the problem is the media. Capitalism has muzzled the media. Capitalism has muzzled the media because the media doesn't want to, lose viewers, lose money. So capitalism has become an obstacle in the way of democracy. And I'm sorry, capitalism has become an obstacle in the way of democracy by all this, donations and give it to whoever you like. And who do you like? The guy who votes in your favor. Who else? You don't like people for no reason. You don't like their cut of their jib. You like because they agree with you. And if the politician agrees when the shopkeeper, the owner of the shop, the manager of the shop, when the shopkeeper agrees with one of his employees to, you can take some back, you can make your own side deal with the customer, then that's it. There goes the shop. Everybody starts making their own back deals with the customers, and it becomes a little, like they said, it becomes. Here's the thing. Just like everybody started accusing each other of being friendly with the foreign government. Now, whether true or not, these guys were, accusing those guys of being close to that government, and these guys were accusing the other guys of being close to the other government, and you're a thief, and you're a thief. Oh, come on, folks. At this point, it's become a little theater of the absurd. But, folks, the only way to fix this is to go to people who let the public choose from a select group of PhDs. Say, and take up the bar, not financially, information-wise. Take up the bar and say, if whoever qualifies with this, in this paradigm, whoever falls within these parameters can apply for this job. We do that all the time. The job of leading people is not less than a physician who has one life in his hand. The surgeon who has one life in his hand is not more important than the chief executive of a great armory who has millions of lives in his hands. So this is a very important job. It's much important than the surgeon. So how come the surgeon has to have 7 years of education, information gathering in order to execute that action? 7 years of information gathering and thinking and gathering and thinking and doing and practicing until you make a surgeon. But then Junior can walk out of his baseball office and become president. Are you fucking kidding me? Where is that years and years of information gathering and thinking and making logic, trying to make sense of the world around? His space? And somebody who wasn't interested in making sense of the world around his own space now is the chief executive of a big space like the United States of America. Folks, this is a very important job. For heaven's sakes, to please, if you don't wanna, please, folks, if you don't wanna some bad things happen in terms of it's like fucking, it's like, I want to say it's like Texas out there. Everybody's armed and everybody's got a big penis. Internationally, domestically, oh fuck. Folks, you gotta have have a minimum level of entry into high politics. Senators on 1 PhD, at least. They don't have to have teaching experience. At least they have to have 1 PhD to enter United States Senate. Or from all the states, PhD. Doesn't matter in any field. 1 PhD, they can be young, they don't have to have experience teaching, but at least 1 PhD. If they have experience teaching, even better. But at least 1 PhD. By a recognized, peer-reviewed institution. And recognized institution and peer-reviewed. Real PhD. And the presidency and vice presidency, PhD with 25 years of teaching experience. Folks, this can only be solved, this problem can only be solved if this is implemented. Or else democracy is not going to, and this applies to Uganda too. This should apply to Iran too, Uganda, Iran, Pakistan, Zimbabwe. If the leader of the world does this, everybody else will follow. If the leader of the world does this, everybody else will follow. And I can assure you we can all live in peace. I can assure you. You put 100 PhDs in the Senate and 2 PhDs in the White House with 25 years of teaching experience, I can assure you we can have world peace tomorrow. Tomorrow. You do it today, tomorrow you're gonna have world peace. I can assure you, I will, I will sign for it. If it doesn't happen, if you put 100 PhDs in the US Senate and 2 PhDs in the White House, I can assure you we'll have world peace in within a year. That would be the empire of the good. That would be the empire of the good. That would be great. it's just information, folks. The value of the information. People with information know the value of information, and the value of information becomes is a matter of life and death. When you are the executive, the biggest executive there is, and you don't and you value information, you should be one of those people who values information, because you have to understand that the awesome power in your hand. Folks, that you gotta raise the bar. Obama was good. Biden is good. Is good. He doesn't have a PhD, but at this point he has a PhD in, running management. You can say right now Mr. Biden has PhD in management with all his years of experience, real experience. And his wife also, she probably has a regular PhD. But the point is this, and if the senators would have PhDs, if just tomorrow these senators were recalled and said, okay, or not recalled, no, I'm sorry, you senators, I love you, the current senators of Uncle Sam, I love you. No recall, no. Just say from now, exempt you from this rule, from this law, write a law, please, this is logical. Write a law and says, exempted all the current office holders from now on. Whoever wants to run for, after us, if we couldn't win the next election, the guy who wins has to have a PhD for the Senate, for executive seat, for the Senate seats, for, I would like to say, for the House seats as well. But at this point, maybe later. The House has to have a master's degree. In the House, the federal U.S. House, maybe they should be master's degree. So, at least at this point. But the point is, the direction you go is going to be in a good direction only if the leader is, a very informed person, a very serious, very informed person. That's the only way this can go right. It's like if you have a very informed, very serious person who understands the weight that their decisions make. And who is that? That's the guy who, when he wants to make a decision, it takes 3 days to make a decision. He makes 5 days to make a decision about the simplest stuff. You want that guy behind the nuclear button. You don't want the guy who, makes decisions, any decision within 2 seconds. Sort of like, yeah, this or this big decision in life and that big decision, okay, I go there. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want the guy who, takes making decisions seriously, understands the value of making informed decisions. It seems like, that's the only way for the upkeep of democracy. And you can make it maybe 5 presidents at a time. Maybe all races are represented in this group of leadership. I guess the Chinese have that model of having 5 presidents at 5, 7, 9. I'm not sure. There is a number. I think it's more than 1, because I think that also makes a little more sense. If you have more than 1 chief executive, none of them want the bad of their people, and they're all professors. I think in terms of how, because you want you want professors in such jobs. Professors have put their brain into building this armament, but now using these armaments should be left to the guy who was skipping class. The professors have built the armament, and now the guy who was skipping class is every 4 years uh, we have to sit down and pray that the guy who didn't skip class gets the job, and maybe sometimes the guy who did skip class gets the job, and the world suffers. A lot of people suffer. Well, folks, this is not good. I am one of the casualties, but this is not good. It's like the whole paradigm of choosing. I mean, you gotta have intelligent leaders such as Washington and Franklin started this enterprise. Really intelligent people like Washington and Franklin, that means people with PhDs, should be the ones running this enterprise. This enterprise is a very sophisticated enterprise. Running a state is a very sophisticated job. You would expect somebody who runs this sophisticated state, when he goes on vacation, his first objective would be to go sit in the library on his vacation from this executive job. You would expect the guy who has this job, chief executive, to, when he goes on vacation, he would feel comfortable going to the library for reading up, catching up on some. But then I remember Junior. He went. They were taking. It was news on the outside of his ranch wall. He was cutting trees. With real chainsaw and noise and his cowboy hat. And I was thinking, you don't want the guy who thinks that suit is a monkey suit. That guy is not a thinker. Then you don't want the guy who this fastest chances he finds, he takes out the monkey suit and puts his costume on and starts chopping up some wood. You don't want that guy. You want the guy who, as a form of relaxation, goes home to his library. You want that guy for some sane. You want that guy for sane decision making. You want that guy because he's so smart by reading so much and accumulating so much information. At that age, he knows enough that he knows that his decisions affect so many generations after him. So you want a real thinker in that job. I don't know how else to put this. I'm not sure why this hasn't been, attended up to this point, and it may never be attended. Nobody apparently cares. But to fix this matter, I think as soon as you can do this, the better it is. To fix this matter, just set the bar after this. After whoever is here, if they get re-elected, great. They don't have to qualify for this item as an amendment to the Constitution. You can add that from this date on, whoever is elected has to have a PhD to become a whoever wants to become a candidate for these offices. Boom, boom, boom. These offices, each one should have a PhD or a master's degree or two PhDs with 25 years of teaching experience. You need to have these. This is the bar, and then if you have these, you can become candidates, and then the owners of this shop can vote for you to become their managers. But this bar has to be raised. This bar has to be raised because the manager of the shop has to be a real manager. Even as the owner of a shop, as the owner of the shop, your most important job is to choosing the right manager for your shop. The wrong manager, the shop is going to go to shit. So if the owners, the people have to choose the right manager, first of all, money has to go out of politics, because the right manager is not a paid manager. Here's the thing. Imagine the owners, the people, do not know that the manager that they're about to pick for their shop is on the payroll of somebody else. You don't want the manager of your shop to be on the payroll of somebody else. Coca-Cola. You don't want the manager of your shop to be on the payroll of McDonald's. You don't want the manager of your shop to be on the payroll of Raytheon. That's the thing. So that means money out of politics. That means nobody should pay off our manager before he's our manager. This paying for advertisement is, that's what puts these managers on their payroll. They're paying for their advertisement. So there are some outsiders, people who have, I guess, they're paying these guys, these managers, and the owners of this shop have to pick one of these managers who's already got paid. So money out of politics, and the minimum bar of entering into, for example, Senate should be 1 PhD. If we can do that George Washington would be smiling in his grave. Benjamin Franklin would be smiling in his grave if this can be done. Oh, if this could be done, they would be all holding a party wherever they are. The founding fathers of this great land. And other great lands. I'm talking about Uganda, I'm talking about Pakistan, I'm talking about India. Indian politics, they're literally putting shit diggers in their parliament. Indian parliament is like, they're literally putting their shit diggers in there. And you're like, oh shit. And you think that an Indian democracy is better than the Chinese system? What has it resulted to anything better? Has it resulted to anything better? They have had what? They were pushed at the start by the British, and they had a little head start. And where are they now? There's still too many of them. They're still poor. There's still no infrastructure. Shit for infrastructure. Shit. So I'm not sure democracy, unless you raise the bar of who can become a representative. Unless you can set the bar high on who can become a representative, democracy will not work. At this point, I would say that, you might as well have a really bad, shitty shopkeeper shop owner who picks a shitty manager who is on the take with some outsiders, and some of the stuff on the shop goes missing, and some of the stuff in the shop gets sold for half price when it shouldn't be, and there is no investment in education. The shop is no paint. The drywalls are broken, and there is no floor. We are selling on the dirt now. The shop has a dirt floor now, and because we are spending a lot of money on building a great wall, on top of it great plane, on top of that great satellites to shoot anybody who looks the wrong way at our shop. That is, we're not spending a lot of money on educating. It's shopkeepers. And that's another thing. If you choose if you set the bar for if you set the bar high for the representatives, then those representatives are exactly the ones who value education, value information, and those are the representatives who actually, start decreasing maybe the defense budget and increasing the education budget, sort of like trying to, have something to protect. You see what I'm saying? So I think, and these two becomes like a chicken and egg. The the educated representatives know the value of education and are willing to spend money on their people's education, but the people have to be educated to understand that you have to set the bar high for the representative and not choose a game show host or an actor or a producer or you gotta pick the guy with the most information in his field, even if he's a producer, even if he's an actor, but an actor who actually 30 years of successful work, top actor, not a B-movie actor. B-movie actor is a chair is a B-movie actor. Sideshow. Yeah, you put right now, you want to put Tom Hanks in as president. Yeah, fine. Bill Gates as president, I'm fine with that. Everybody's fine with that. Elon Musk president, yes, everybody's fine with that. You see, when people have information, top line information, they make great things in industry. Not commerce. No showmanship. Industry, building something. But the problem is that's not it. Trump was not it. Trump was the playboy. The playboy, the guy who also graduated from somewhere, and and then people are not educated enough to make the to make the critical thinking, to understand that this is bullshit. It's a facade it's a facade of success, because successful people don't want to be known. Really successful people are on the down low. They don't want to make too much noise because they're afraid of, if too many people know how much money they have, there might be some frustration from the people. So successful people really don't scream at the rooftops, from the rooftop, that they're successful. So if the guy comes along and starts screaming from the rooftop that he is successful, you can be sure that he's trying to he's trying to exaggerate his success, because his next loan could be successful. You see what I'm saying? If you live on loan, you need to promote your success, because your next loan might be dependent on how the banker feels successful you are. So if the banker thinks you're more successful than you actually are, the banker may approve your loan much easier. So no, dude. Folks, you gotta raise the minimum level of entry. Just like if you have a shop and you want the guy with the highest education to be the manager of your shop, you don't want the guy who was on the take from the outside to become a manager of your shop. You don't want the guy who doesn't know how things work become the manager of the shop. You want the manager of the shop to be a real manager, who actually likes to read the reports from the shop and make sure everything is working as they should in the shop. You want that person. somebody who pays attention to details. Do any of these guys, well, beside, I would say Clinton and Obama were the more intelligent of the current, the not the current, the within recent memory. Carter too, but the rest of them, Reagan and Bush Senior, maybe Bush Junior, Bush Senior, the rest of them, none of these guys were PhDs or anything close to PhDs in anything. In anything. The guy leaves his executive jobs and goes home, and the first thing that comes to his mind is that I want to go chop some wood. The kind of activity that least involves this. Are you fucking kidding me? Imagine the Jedi leaving his job and going and thinking, I'm not going to go read a book, I'm going to chop a wood. Folks, love you, Uncle Sam. Love you.